KingDude, we were enjoying the show. Oh, I know. I poked the hornet's nest when I said no earbuds. Actually, few people would listen instead of listening at 16 by speed like Schaefer. If you'd actually listen to the program and slow down for a stinking minute, you'd have heard I said in public. I didn't say, when I mean that, I mean when you are out shopping or engaging in whatever public, humanus actus, as I was talking about earlier. Take the earbuds out and meet people. Be a part of the human condition. Participate in what Jefferson called human events. Try it sometime. Be a player in this game we called life. Try it. Anyway, if I were to play this Joe Walsh song, or they were to play it today, no 20-something would make it past that kick drum intro. They'd go like, what the hell? And they'd pull a Maggie O'Connell and hit the change the channel button. But I think that the author of the piece, Juliana Freeman, is correct when she says, and yet, amid digital acceleration, Gen Z has pursued a tangible connection to music. Vinyl sales in the U.S. last year surpassed $1 billion. Led by contemporary stars like Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar alongside. You know, my daughter, who's getting married next month, Reagan, just moved into her new home, condo. And one of the first piece of furniture that they bought for the new home was the little, what would you call that, Maggie? It's not an ottoman. What is it? Kind of a hutch. A hutch that is specifically sized to hold vinyl albums on either side, and in the middle is a carve out for a Crosley record player. They don't there's a CD player on the back of the Crosley, but yeah, the young people are going back to records because, well, first of all, they think it's cool, and because it is. And collecting album covers, used to be like a hobby for people. You couldn't wait for an album to come out, not because they liked the artist, because they wanted to see who was going to be on the cover. On the cover of the Rolling Stone. People are now buying copies of Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, Michael Jackson's Thriller. Arguably, of the pop era, if you're going to throw out Spirits Having Flown, and most of you will because it's the Bee Gees, Thriller, arguably, probably. And I know people are going, what about Beach Boys' Pet Sounds? Okay, there's so many of them I love, but Thrillers is just a phenomenal piece of work. What an incredible time it was for Michael Jackson. And of course, it was cool for him too, because he made that record with his idol, his hero, Quincy Jones. But even as a music, and by the way, if anyone tells me, if you put the words Jason Aldean in my chat room, you're banned for life. I don't care if Jason Aldean has an album. Don't care. Don't want to hear about it. But even as music consumers buy vinyl records, the contrast with the 1960s is instructive. Then music unified people, giving them a sense of shared identity. Now our private playlists display the sound of our interior worlds. Music isn't dead, but finding its soul is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. When a baby boomer calls terrible, isn't emptiness so much as speed. And they won't slow down. They just won't. When a culture cannot sit long enough to reflect on its inability to sit still and reflect, meaningful music will rarely meet the mainstream. The drumbeat of soul-catching music pounds beneath the floorboards of digital platforms, waiting for those who will pause, listen, and dig it out. It's an interesting thing, Mahgdalen Rose, but if you go to almost anywhere and they pipe music into your ears and you can't get away from it, almost none of it came from this decade.
Well, that's true. You mentioned the vinyls, and I love all the artists that have vinyls. I myself am not a vinyl fan, but I have a best friend who for many years was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm going to get so involved. And he's built out a very large vinyl collection. And it's interesting because it's like vintage vinyls, but also from an album that was released last year. And I think the vinyl thing was one of the sort of notices that we were heading into an era where people don't necessarily love the level of technology. Like, for example, I recently bought wired Apple headphones to just plug right into your phone because the anxiety.
Did you really?
I did. Like the normal ones from Amazon, they were $19.99. They're from Apple. Because the anxiety and stress over making sure I had a charged AirPod, I couldn't take it anymore. I always was missing one. It was a nightmare. And then my mom, when she saw them, she was like, did you buy wired headphones? I was like, yeah. So she bought them too. And my husband has one of those big Bluetooth sets for everything. So we've become a house that, although we were very pro AirPod and everything, it's the stress of it. Sometimes technology has just become too stressful.
Well, okay, so the point of the story was earlier how the algorithm stripped the soul out of songwriting, and I was saying that this would not be a hit record today.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. And I knew if I had my chance that I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while.
Well, everyone knows the song, but what you don't know and what you're missing as you're listening to the Mike Church Show here, and you're wondering what the hell I'm doing and why I'm doing it, as you're listening to that is engaging, it's slow, it's melodic. Of course, he's an Irishman, Don McLean. He has a beautiful, beautiful voice. And he's fixing to tell you a story. That song came out in 1971. That makes that record 45 years old now. And there's hardly an American or an Irishman or an Englishman that can't sing it by heart. And the amazing thing about it is, and people are still arguing over what it means. What's it? Is it really true? Is it really about Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper and Richie Valens? Well, Don McLean will tell you that, that's in there. There's all sorts of stuff in there. And the thing about it is that kind of pop music, that kind of rock and roll, it's almost kind of folksy. That song in particular is folksy. Has an endearing and enduring quality because it tells a story that people are interested in, and they're willing to sit through 8 minutes and 34 seconds to get to the end. Now, here's an interesting thing. How many people, if I were to play the last 20 seconds before I play it, tell me what's the last line to American Pie? It's not a quiz for you, Magdalene, because I'm sure that you know the song. Maggie, you know the song. What's the last line to American Pie?
I have to try to sing the whole thing in my head. I don't know.
It's this.
They were singing, bye, bye.
Everybody sing.
American Pie. Drove my Chevy
To the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. John, John. There's not a person that knows that song that just now wasn't singing along and going like, wow, I'm so glad Mike decided to not talk about politics today. It's good. It's cool. It's natural. And again, while we slowed it down there, we're not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry.
Have you heard of the band Cat's Eye?
Is Cat's Eye?
Yes.
I've heard the name.
Okay, so it was a band, it's a girl group put together by a couple global talent agencies, basically the K-pop people, but it was trying to be an international band. And they did a Netflix show, a talent show to find all the girls for it. It's girls from all over the world. And I think the issue for Cat's Eye, for example, and this speaks to what you're saying, is they tried to follow the formula of putting out music now. And the formula for putting out music, they think, is just to put really obscene beats and a dance break that makes no sense and everybody in strange wigs. And they're really frustrated because they've poured millions of dollars into this band. And I watched the commentary about it on TikTok. It's like an analyzation of why it's failed. And it's failed because people want to feel something from music. They don't want to just, it's like you feel like you're being assaulted by a lot of the newer bands.
So you mean like the beat that you made me do that awful 15-second video to?
Much worse. It's much worse. No, it's much worse. You would not even do it. Like, you would not even, deal with it. Those things they're short and funny. But if you watch the most recent Cat's Eye video, I was watching it and I'm like, what is this? I don't understand what the storyline is. And then at one point they're just sitting in what looks like an old conference room and in like short blonde wigs. There's no understanding of what's happening.
There is, I saw a story on Fake Fox, FAUX News this morning. How many of you people knew, if you live in Manhattan, this might be of interest to you, a Blockbuster video rental store is now in its second year of operation?
Is it
Yeah.
really Blockbuster?
Well, I mean, it's not Blockbuster itself, but it's a video rental store. And people are, especially young people, are late at night going like, why don't we go down to the video store and go rent some videos? And Maggie was making the point earlier. Many of us have stream fatigue. We hate it. We hate everything. I sit there and scream at Amazon all the time going like, why am I paying for the premium service and then I have to sit through these god-awful ads, and many of them are just offensive. They're obscene, promoting HIV drugs, and then they show people, homo people, weirdos with HIV. I'm like, I didn't need to see that. But in any event, why am I paying for this streaming service and I got to pay to watch a movie? Or I got to pay if I want to go ad-free, you want an extra $9 a month for the ads that when you first did the streaming service didn't exist?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And when you, I watch things on HBO Max, so you go there, and the amount of ads that are playing, it's ridiculous. So you're supposed to pay I think HBO Max is like $12.99 a month. So the idea is that you're supposed to actually own nothing. Like if a streaming service goes down, you have no access to anything, despite this investment you've made into things. And it speaks to that ethos of you'll own nothing, you'll have nothing, and you'll be happy, that the World Economic Forum pushes consistently. And even Elon Musk has talked about how that's a good way, and the universal basic income will be a good thing. I think that is the complete off track of that people are following in the United States. People are buying things on DVD. The DVD bidding process on eBay has reached like a 10-year high because people are trying to get DVD collections of their favorite shows.
Yep.
That to me is a massive indicator.
Well, and I don't know that the VCR is going to come back anytime soon, because who didn't have a VCR that didn't have an issue with the tape going wonky?
DVDs for the win.
What's that?
DVDs.
And then the DVD came out, and then they figured out how to double up on the DVD so you could flip it over, or they could burn it on both sides. There was something to be said for the things that were in that analog world, and it's kind of like the note that I have to remind myself to put on the videos that when we do the daily Mike Church Show video. I'll let the audience in on a little secret. If you want to sit in on our marketing meeting today, you're welcome. Send me an email, and I'll send you the address. The note says something to the effect, this is how the Mike Church Show actually sounded live today, complete with Mike's patented trademark 4 and 5 second long dead air pauses. Can you imagine what must just drive people bonkers? Probably to the point that some people scream at the YouTube or whatever channel they're watching it on. Why is he pausing? Well, because I was trying to put the thought together and I didn't want to get it wrong. So I went, and even when I'm still going, all right, Brian, come on, load vocabulary. Load vocabulary. But you're not supposed to do that today. When we make short videos and your AI algorithm makes a short video of that exact same segment, it starts off at 4 minutes and your algorithm cuts it down to 50 seconds.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine about this who is doing a podcast, and he runs it through Descript, which removes like all dead air. Like you wouldn't even have a moment of pausing. And I said to him, I totally understand that you think that that's efficient. I was like, but you look crazy. You look like a weirdo. And he was like, no, it's super efficient. I was like, no, you sound nuts. And he said, no, it's going to streamline it. And I was like, point me to the podcast that does that. One of the top podcasts we've talked about before is Financial Audit with Caleb Hammer, who goes to people's finances when they willingly offer them. There's not a pause or erase. He stops and has lunch sometimes. Joe Rogan doesn't erase his pauses. But it's this idea that we should have fast content. And yet you look at the rankings of content internationally and specifically in America, no platforms utilize that. So, like, to me, the more pauses, the better. You don't have to get it perfect all the time.
So, it's kind of a sidebar. Maggie, I just put into your Signal chat exactly what the YouTube disclaimer says, because I want the audience to see it. Now, this should be on all the videos. It's not on all of them because they're not all long form, but we can go back and make sure that it is on all of them. It says this. Did you get it? Okay. It says, note, kids, this video is presented old school as it was broadcast. No, we are not removing Mike's very intentional dramatic pauses. If you want crap content compressed into 30-second breathless sound bites to feed your dopamine addiction, the Mike Church Show is not for you. I should put it at the bottom. Thank you for your attention to this matter, right? I should put a Trump twist on it. That is the disclaimer, though, that could actually revolutionize the broadcasting world, if you think about it. No. I am not taking the pauses out. We're not removing the breath.
Don't do it. I would tell you, and I would say you sound like a weird robot. And I'm like pro AI algorithm for shorts and everything, but I would tell you it's very weird. There's a young YouTuber who did that as well, and I think that's where my friend got the idea. And I sent him back the video, and I was like, does this feel warm and fuzzy to you? Do you want to buy anything from this person who every 5 seconds, I mean, they erase the intake of breath. That's like, you might as well just watch an AI B-roll thing.
Well, and look, I know how to do it. I can do it. I do it. As a matter of fact, I could sit down right there and using DaVinci, video editing program. I take my pre-breaths and post-breaths out. It doesn't take an awful lot of skill. You know, the AI can figure out how to do it too. And all you're doing is you're compressing a body of work. You're taking a body of work and you're compressing it down into something that is instantly consumable. What's ironic to me about that, Magdalene, is that our work is not instantly consumable matter. It is meant to be listened to. I want people to think about this, especially our audience listening members who have contributed mightily to keeping the Crusade Channel and the Mike Church Show on the air. I want you to think about something. And I think that this is something that has the potential to come back again. When we launched the Crusade Channel in 2015, I got an email from a gentleman who ran a bagel shop in Manhattan. And he told me that he was 100% behind the new Crusade Channel and the Mike Church Show being independent, and that he put me on in his bagel shop where the Muzak was, so that his customers, while they were standing in line getting a bagel, could hear some talk radio instead of Muzak piped into their ears or some crappy FM station or whatever. Now, I fell out of touch with the guy because maybe he pissed off so many of his customers. He turned me off and didn't want to tell me. But the idea was an extension of what El Rushbo used to call back in the day rush rooms. What was a rush room? Well, a rush room was a barber shop, a little restaurant, a little haberdashery store or whatever that would play the Rush Limbaugh show when it was broadcast live from 11 to 2 Central, as noon to 3 Eastern. And you could actually go there, especially if it was like a restaurant or something. You could actually go there and you could just kind of hang out and have your lunch or have lunch or coffee or whatever. And you didn't hear sappy One Tree Hill music crap like they play in Starbucks, right? And you could hear the Rush Limbaugh show if you were into that sort of thing. Now, there's a reason why I'd say that it's possible for people to have church doctrine rooms or church rooms or whatever. Again, and that's because there's something really cool that's happening right down the street from my house. Maybe you've seen it in New Hampshire. Maybe some of our listeners have seen it where they live. A pair of guys, half a dozen or so guys, they call their little cooking team for the Hogs for the Cause. I actually know them. I've met them. They call their team the Notorious PIG. And they're like me. They never won a championship. They just there's a fun-loving bunch of barbecue dudes. And about a year ago or so, they bought a little one-room, 80-square-foot barbershop in what passes for downtown Madisonville. And they turned a little tiny barber shop into the place where they sold the barbecue. And then they built a little deck outside where the sales place basically is. And then they built a smoker room. They just kept adding on. And then they added picnic tables. Picnic tables. Imagine this. And all of it, and now, and just in the last month or so since they added the picnic tables, when I pass by there, if it's lunchtime, the construction workers around, and if it's a Saturday or Sunday, the families around, have discovered the Notorious PIG, and they are actually going and they're eating a comfy lunch under a very large live oak tree that has Spanish moss hanging off of it. And they're hanging out in downtown, population 210, Madisonville, Louisiana. And my point about that is that's small town MAGA America. That's here. Let's just ditch MAGA. That's America First Louisiana. If a corporate restaurant chain would have been told to try that, their marketing research would have told them no. But those guys gave it the old college try, and every indication that I see is that people are responding very, very positively. And I haven't had their barbecue in a long time, but maybe the barbecue is really good too. And I wonder how many places are a little Notorious PIG, little mom and pop, laid back eateries where maybe we could go down there and convince them to play the Mike Church show are happening especially across Southern America.
Well, I read an article recently about the death of the American diners and how that they think has contributed to a lot of the death of being able to discuss things if you're on opposing political sides. Because those types of restaurants are not expensive at all. You could bring multiple members of family there. You could go in because they tend to be open later than other restaurants and earlier than others. And that the death of the American diner and the whole ecosystem that went along with it, like radio playing, local television, has caused people to not be able to discuss locally big issues. So if we could bring back the American diner system and invest in that, like if some billionaire in the Republican world wants to invest in community building, that's one of the things I would genuinely recommend.
Yeah, there's a great line. Steve Buscemi is in the scene. I'm trying to think of who the other actor is. This is a Tarantino movie, so it's loaded down with F-bombs and all sorts of other offensive crap, so I'm not going to recommend it to you, but you all know. It's called Reservoir Dogs. Watch the opening scene to Reservoir Dogs. There's a debate that happens between Buscemi and who is the other actor? Somebody will throw it in the chat room. Between Buscemi and one of the other guys, and they're debating over whether or not, and they're in a diner. They've just, and you find out later on in the movie, they're going to a massive robbery that they have planned. But they stopped at a diner to get breakfast before they went and did their hit job. And there's a debate that ensues over between Buscemi and the other guy, because Buscemi is refusing to leave a tip. The other dude's like, leave a tip, dude. It's wrong. And he's like, no, man, she's getting paid by the hour. I'm not leaving a tip. She has to work in here and serve me or whatever. And the other guy argues the other point, and he says, do you know that for uneducated American females, the number one occupation is waitress? America is run by America's waitresses or waiters.
Yeah.
And they work for tips. She's working for tips. If you don't tip her, she's not going to have any money to take home. She's probably a single mom, and she's got to go and buy infant formula or baby food, and she's not going to be able to do it because you are being a jackass and you won't leave her a tip. And ultimately, the dude leaves the tip for Buscemi here. But the point is that Tarantino just kind of tapped in. That happens in a diner. You believe it. It's guys hanging out just having a meal. You believe it. There's a waitress who's being very attentive, and she's obviously very lower middle class, and you believe it. And the whole thing just seems natural. Like this could absolutely happen. That's what you want to bring back. That's what you're talking about restoring. About diners and mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah, because that's a system that it's sustainable. Like, one of the things is that you're going to have to push forward in this world, and you're going to have a buildup of revenue, and you're going to have to work hard. But if those entry-level positions that people can get straight out of high school or as a senior in high school, if they disappear, what it creates is a bigger need for welfare, but less people who can pay into it. It's literally a recipe for disaster. And one of the things that I've seen over and over again is that Republicans are missing the boat. The discussion around private equity and how private equity has become a massive evil in this country, that's what young people want to hear. I find this very frustrating because I could write out the top 6 things on the Republican presidential platform that could win over young people. And then if we had ad revenue, we had an ad budget and those kinds of things, we could win over young people very easily. And this is something I often didn't understand about Charlie Kirk. He would go on campuses and he would talk about the same 5 things over and over again. And what people don't realize is he was starting to get criticism for not discussing as much the issue with AI data centers and private equity. There was issues behind the scenes in the young conservative world where people felt he was getting out of touch, and there was an effort to educate him about the truth. With him gone, there's no one to even educate. There's nobody to even say to, this is what we should do to win young people over. If you ran against private equity, AI data centers, and pushed for an audit of college campuses and the need for an effort to figure out why these things cost so much, you'd win in a landslide with young people. Someone just has to be courageous enough to do it on our side, because someone will do it on the Democrat side.
James Fishback.
Yeah.
That's what he's running against. AI data centers. Here's another one.
Yeah.
To your point here, and by the way, I'll do it. I'll do all of that. We'll do all of that. Fixing the fertility rate starts with getting boys and girls to talk to each other. You're not going to talk to each other if you're running around with earbuds in public, which is why I said no earbuds in public. I didn't say no earbuds. I said no earbuds in public. You're not going to meet each other if you're not running, if you're running around with earbuds on, and if your goal is to avoid all human interaction, and this is another thing that COVID did to us, all human interaction and contact. Maggie, not everyone is an introvert like you. This says introverts unite alone, separately, in our own houses, of course. In just 2 decades, America has lost roughly 1/5 of its fertility. Listen to this. According to the CDC, the United States recorded 3,606 400 births in 2025 with a general fertility rate of 53.1 births for 1,000 women ages 15 to 44. That figure has been falling for years. In 2015, it was 62.5 births per 1,000 women, ages 15 to 44. In 2005, it was 66.7 births per 1,000 figure, the highest level since 1993. So in just 2 decades, 1/5 of its fertility, the U.S. has lost 1/5 of its fertility. In 1950, the replacement rate was approximately 4.9. The average American woman gave birth to about 5 children. Today, the U.S. replacement rate sits at roughly 2.1, according to Our World data. The relation, and as stated above, the data shows that just over 3.6 million U.S. babies enter the world in 2025, solidifying the notion that this is a downward trend. Well, that means that your civilization is dying. The relationship between men and women in the United States is strained in ways data cannot fully capture. America's young men face contradictory expectations. Women desire men who are confident, decisive, and assertive. But men must not be so assertive that they risk social or professional consequences. Emotional intelligence and the ability to be deferential are also attractive traits to have. But women will balk at beta males who appear too weak. So you got weak teeth sucking guys out there who have been raised primarily by women with no men around, have not been taught any ounce, not 1 ounce of masculinity, and now do not have, they don't have the skill set. And I would suggest to you that the only way you're going to get the skill set is to take the damn earbuds out and go out into the public. You're just going to have to learn it as a social skill. There is no other way.
Well, I think that's true. There is no other way. You have to go outside. And this is one of the things that I think, the young conservative world also needs to understand is if you sit in your computer just like hate posting on Twitter, you have accomplished nothing. You're not like a political you're not like a political operative. If you're doing that as a political operative, you might accomplish something. But you're not going forward and changing anything. And for Republicans who are, dying on this neocon hill with Trump, I would say to them, do you understand that you have facilitated the takedown of our advantage with young white men in this country when the opposing side literally views young white men as terrorists who need to be extinguished? Like, if you don't understand how unpopular a war is based off the fact that the voting bloc has left you to side with people who hate them, then you really have no business advising the president.
Well, here's a thought for young conservatives and young Republicans and for entrepreneurs. Follow the notorious PIG. Become an entrepreneur. The idea that you have to go out and you have to go work for the man is also something that this kind of fear will. You're going to get a culture that is based on fear, but it's not fear of failure; it's fear of attempt. Well, I'm not going to attempt it because I might fail. Exactly. And failure is okay. It's okay to fail. That's how you become a winner, because you failed. And then you went, well, I'm not going to do that again. And then you learn from that. To put this another way and into another perspective that is totally relevant to the discussion today and the discussion we've been having, I told Middish Chur on Sunday after leaving traditional Latin Mass at St. Patrick's in downtown New Orleans on Camp Street, I said, you need to call our son up and tell him he needs to move home and he needs to start going to Sunday Mass with us. Just give it 6 weeks. And if after 6 weeks he hasn't caught the eye of and met one of the 75 or 60 or 75 completely and totally single, alone, eligible, beautiful young Catholic girls, then it's him that's the problem. Because I'm telling you, if you're a young male, let me tell you where you're going to find beautiful young women. Traditional Latin masses. And it's not because their parents brought them there. It's because they discovered it, and it's a cool thing now.
Well, that's true. And I think that people don't necessarily understand that you have to do things. Like, it's not enough to simply stand there and say, we're going to, I'm going to try to meet someone and do all that. You have to put an effort to it. You don't necessarily meet someone just sitting at home. And you're right, the amount of young women in traditional Catholic churches,
my Lord,
or who are traditional Catholics in Catholic churches that are even more moderate is massive.
Oh.
I mean, it's a massive gender disparity. So much so that if you're a young man, you could really evaluate a lot of women. You could go on a lot of first dates. You could go on a lot of group dates. You could really meet somebody and not have to be like wondering if it's the right person. There's a lot of options. I think there's some male laziness on that side, and there's an idea that, well, it's just going to happen. It's not just going to happen. Everything takes action in life.
You're not going to meet them listening to Nick Fuentes all day long and getting pissed off and angry at Israel. That's how you're not going to meet them. Let me assure you,
No.
that's how you're not going to meet them. All right, staying in kind of in the same genre, I want to talk about Eric Swalwell. The Democrat Party has a problem with perverts. They have a major problem. The American media system has a problem with perverts. It's obvious. Some of us are saying, like, okay, this guy is an unhinged weirdo. And yet, he was a couple of social media posts and uncarried out threats away from being a major contender to become governor of California. I want people to think about that. This dude is a stalker. He is a stalking prevert wacko. And yet, what was he, number 3, number 4 in the Democrat Party in Congress? The most interesting thing to me about the whole takedown of Swalwell yesterday, the most interesting thing and the most, illustrative thing about the entire debacle, who is ultimately responsible for forcing him to quit, to stand down?
Oh, the Shkreli.
No.
Yeah.
Well, no. Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, Nancy Pelosi.
Nazi
yeah.
Nancy Pelosi went, wax on, wax off, our words lead to Putin, 12,000, 14,000 Ukrainians. Then you have to, you get in the party, you have to get out. Get out, you're a pervert. Get out, wax on, get out the party. Nancy Pelosi, I'm told, I read somebody that was like, let me give you the inside scoop here. It was Pelosi that pulled the plug and told Jeffries, either you get rid of him or I will. And, so the old bird, the old dame, the most successful member of the House of Representatives in our entire adult lifetime, you can get mad at me for saying that all you want. You can get angry at me for saying it. It's true. She is the most successful member of Congress in the entirety of your adult life, unless you're 100. Nancy Nazi Pelosi pulled the plug on Swalwell. What does that tell you about how bad it was?